Okay, let's see if this bad boy plays here. Take a sip of my coffee. We better mute old thing right here. There we go. All right. Oh, man. All right, there I am. Hey guys, how you doing out there? Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor. Thank you for joining to today's newly rescheduled, new time, actually same time. No, it's new day and new time. Final Expense No BS training session on Monday at 12 Eastern. First of all, I want to give you a happy new year, and I hope you guys had a fantastic time for your New Year's. Hopefully you're like myself. I've given a lot of thoughts to goal setting, what you want to accomplish, what to improve upon for the new year, and which is one of the reasons why I'm doing a detailed conversation today about direct mail final expense leads. I think, as I have discussed in a lot of different videos that I do and run, that at the end of the day, direct mail is the king when it comes to final expense lead generation. So I want to make sure that you guys know that, but also know exactly what you're getting into whenever you're looking into any kind of direct mail lead generation type of setup. So my goals in this particular live training event is to talk completely about direct mail leads. Not just about direct mail leads. I'm going to give you some basic information as to how direct mail campaigns work, how and what lead pieces there are out there, and how well they work, and how well some of them don't work. Give you the good and the bad. And then after that, looking at my notes here, we're going to talk about what my favorite lead pieces are at the moment that I prefer to use. And I'll give you circumstances where that may not be the case. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a couple of lead vendors that I personally work with or have worked with in the past, and to at least start your direction off in the right direction when it comes to sourcing a partner for direct mail lead generation. So, clearing my throat, what exactly is direct mail? I'll take it from the basic to the complex here. So we're going to start with just a basic explanation. So what I'm showing you here on the old screen, I've got my two screens running here. Hopefully you guys can see this is okay. This is what you call a basic direct mail final expense lead. What this says, we're going to talk about in detail here in a minute. But the key thing that I want to harp on is that most of your direct mail leads are going to look like this. The word verbiage can change based on some desires that you may have on what the lead piece says. But the important thing is, most of what we're talking about, if you're brand new to final expense, is what's called business reply card mailers. This is where the post office actually allows us to have the person send back a postage paid card to our lead house, in which they scan it and upload it to our private servers, in which we can download and use. That is the essence of what direct mail is 99% of the time. You look into direct mail final expense lead generation. Very rarely will you see postcards where you just send a postcard and there's nothing attached to it. 99% of the direct mail, especially the bit that the big guys use, are all using these direct mail pieces that are detachable, that send back, and that you get back in about, on average, 4 to 5 weeks. That's the average turnaround from the order of the leads to when you actually have them in hand and can go work them. So that's how that works. That's exactly and exclusively what I'll be talking about today, because again, when I talk to new agents, I tell them the bottom line is direct mail is king, and if you go on convention and talk to personal producers, the vast majority are going to reiterate and confirm what I'm saying is true. They're all there on convention because of not just their work ethic, but because of the lead system they're using mimics this one I just explained down exactly, with minor alterations that come down to preferences, as we'll discuss. So if you've got a question, by the way, I've got my chat box set up. You're welcome to leave me a question or comment. I'll be more than happy to address it if you've got any particular questions about final expense leads or anything like that. Last thing I'll mention is I made a commitment to, hey, how you doing, Ed? I made a commitment today to a gentleman on another live video we did last week. He asked me about how to deal with, I already have insurance objection. I'm going to save that for last. Let me make a note here. and so I don't forget. And we will talk about that at the very end. So we've talked about how direct mail leads work. We've talked about why you do direct mail, because simply enough, it's what everybody else does. It works extremely well if you work hard at working that system. So what direct mail pieces are the best to use? Well, I've honed it down to 3 different pieces that I would use given certain circumstances. And I'm going to give you the pros, and I'm going to give you the cons, and tell you which ones I would like under certain circumstances and which ones I wouldn't want under certain circumstances. So the first one on the top of the stack here is the good old standby life insurance lead. So when I say standby, it's a lead. I'll just put it right up to the camera. I think you guys can see this all right. See if I can get it to focus. Really, the main point of focus is, wrong side, right here, the red right there, where it says state-regulated life insurance program. We call this a life insurance lead. Now, obviously, it's a life insurance lead, but the thing is it says life insurance on the card. As we'll explain, there are leads that are more specific, and there are leads that are less specific. With leads that are more specific, the downside is you get less response rate from them, because more people know why they're sending their card back, to be frank with you, because they see it says life insurance on it, and they think, well, I've got life insurance already, I'm not interested. But the people who do send it back tend to be more aware of what they're doing. A lot of people send back direct mail because they're curious or lonely. Many agents can attest sitting with Mildred and listening to her life story for an hour. And certainly, the more I'm in this business, the more I think that's actually the case with some of these people who do respond. But in actuality, people respond based off of what is in the copy, what's in the actual verbiage on the card. And so when you have more specificity with the card, you're going to improve, to some extent, the quality of the response. Now, it's not a guarantee that it will be any better than any other lead program. It's just that in general, the more information you provide, that usually allows for a better type of lead response. I can tell you my personal preference is to work a lead card that does say life insurance. I've had heated arguments with all sorts of agents for years about the difference between a specific card and one that's what we call a vanilla card, and that's actually coming up next. And they've got their points, I've got my points. And the goal comes down to this. You got to try everything that's out there to kind of get a good idea if it works for you, if it's right for you, or if it's not, if it really isn't. And then come up with a determination as to what gives you the best return on your investment and what you really can enjoy working. That's an important part as well. If you hate working a certain lead, it will lead to mental degradation and your performance will lack because of it. So for me, if at all possible, I'll use a lead card that says life insurance. Now, what you'll find with these particular life insurance lead cards is that, well, because they're more specific, the response rate has dropped precipitously, and I would say pretty much across the nation. So, for example, you've got situations where response rates on these particular life insurance leads are less than 1%. And if you're paying $450 to $500 per thousand, you're paying $45 to $50, maybe, if not even a lot more. Because I said best case scenario in many markets is 1% response rate. To me, that's a little crazy. It's very expensive for a lead. And what you want to do, if you like these kind of lead cards, is to work with a vendor that will give them to you on a fixed price basis. That's where the vendor assigns a price that you pay. In most cases, the vendors, you're charged between $29 and $33 a lead for these kind of leads. And they guarantee that's all you'll pay for the leads. You want to go that direction if you can, because obviously that reduces your price considerably. Now I'll explain a little bit more of the shortcomings of that at the very end of the call when we talk about vendors and fixed price vendors. I'm going to make a note because it's very important to talk about what some fixed price vendors will do in certain circumstances to get the price point down. Write that down, fixed price leads. But the thing is despite the shortcomings that some fixed pricing leads have, they're still one of the most preferable ones to use. I highly recommend, especially if you're in markets like Texas or Florida, especially Florida, and Georgia. Those are the worst response rate states in the nation. It's best to find a fixed price vendor if you can, and most of those markets, it's good to have one. Some there's little pockets that you don't have to have fixed pricing, and you still do okay. So that's the leads that say life insurance. For new guys especially, highly recommended to have a lead card that says life insurance. It's going to just allow you to be a little bit easier to get started. So that brings me to the exact opposite of a life insurance lead card, which I call the vanilla lead card. Let me show you it right here. Let's see right here. Look at the red if you don't mind. Let this camera see if it can focus on it. The key, there it is. The key says, the key word in here is it says state regulated program. Now if you look briefly through the remainder of the verbiage on the card, you can pretty much see everything. Let me back it up a little bit. There's no mention of life insurance at all on this card, and that's kind of the rub here. When you don't have, and let me rephrase that, there is an inverse relationship between response rate quality and what the card says. So the less specific, the more response. The more specific, the less response. But in some cases, the quality is better when there's more specificity and even when there's less response, because most people at that point know what they're getting into. Not guaranteed, but that's generally the case. So with this card, what you find is your response rates tend to be very good, where you may get 1% response rate in some markets with a life insurance lead. This one, and it only excludes life insurance relative to that other lead card. That's what's crazy about it. That's pretty much the only difference on the card. When you take that out, your response rates go from 1% to 1.5%. So when you spend for what you get for 20 leads, you get 30 leads. So why not go that direction versus the other? Because now you have more people to talk to. And most agents who've been in this business for a while will just simply tell you they want warm bodies to see. They just want to get in front of more people, and they know they're going to sell more insurance. And that's definitely true. However, here's the problem I personally have. Again, this is debatable amongst professional final expense agents, and I'm not saying that my opinion stands supreme. It's just my experience is I would consider myself a good agent, not a great agent, not a bad agent. These particular lead cards, while they have a high response rate, because they don't say life insurance on them, people send it off because they're just flat out curious. It sounds like it may be some government program. Finally, the government's stepping up and paying these people's burial. Since they've not ever planned to have it paid for, why not send off? This may be some new handout they can take advantage of. So when they get it and they find out it's life insurance, many times they're pissed because they thought it was another free thing for them. They feel duped. So with this card, you get a lot more junk response. What's cool about it, however, and this comes from personal experience to some extent, as well as listening to other agents who do use and like these cards, you tend to get in front of people who would not normally respond back to one of these cards, but still have inferior coverage that you can replace. So you have to learn how to angle yourself in the home a little better, because you're not leading with life insurance, you're leading with a state-regulated program. And that's just such innocuous, nebulous language that it doesn't really mean anything. But that's the point, is to get in the door and just sell them on something. When you get there, see what they have and possibly replace. So one of the superior advantages to these leads is you'll get in the door as you otherwise wouldn't with a life insurance lead. And if you replace coverage, what you'll find in this business is the best person to sell a policy to is the one who already has a policy. Because if they're already paying on a policy, they've already set the money aside, they obviously think it's important. And if you can sell and persuade them on upgrading their plan that they have currently with yours, hey, that plan's probably not going to lapse, okay? You don't have to convince Mildred that she can come off of $30 and not, upset her cigarette and beer habit. And it sounds corny, but if you get out into the business, stuff is true. So I would prefer all day long to sell replacements versus brand new coverage, just because, bottom line, you're going to have a better quality of business. Hey, Joe, I see your question there. I'll address it in a little bit if that's okay. I didn't quite read through it, but I'll get to it for sure. That's kind of the issue with the vanilla lead cards, is that what you're looking at with the vanilla lead cards is more people, but not necessarily as equivalent in quality. Again, you may find these are great and you hate the other ones. And in fact, if you stay in this business long enough, you find there's no distinguishable difference. You might find you do well one week with the vanilla cards and really crappy the next week with the fixed price life insurance lead card, and you don't know what to believe. And that's what a lot of people come down to, is they realize, well, hell, it all works some of the time, sometimes it doesn't. Just throw something out there and see what happens. So some people just have no way of measuring all the variables, so they just pick something to run with. So that's the vanilla card. I would recommend that if you're new to this business, to stay away from the vanilla card. There's just a lot more frustration involved than there is with a more specific card. So again, I harken back to the life insurance lead. Use that to start if you're new. Now, if you're experienced, you should try out the state-regulated vanilla card program card, because you're going to get a lot more people that normally don't respond to life insurance solicitations, and you will replace. And the other thing is if you've been in this business a year or two, you probably have the skill set to effectively replace inferior coverage, and pivot a call to your advantage, where you can actually replace and improve upon somebody's lot. So that's kind of how I look at this. The last one I want to look at is actually a lead card I've been using for quite some time. I really like the lead card. I'll tell you a little story about before I show it. I was of the persuasion, before I tried this card out, I thought it was complete garbage. It's a bribe card. And essentially what happens is the people send the card off thinking they're going to get a free gift card. I always thought, because of the prospects that we see, many of them are looking for handouts. They've always looked for handouts. And why am I actually going to do something to give them a handout? And so I always was skeptical, and I refused to try it out, even though I had people claim that it was good. It wasn't until I went on convention about now 2 years ago, back in 2015, I talked to 2 or 3 producers writing 20, 25,000 a month, big numbers, and they all use the same bribe card I'm about to show you. And so I was totally convinced at that point, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I started dropping leads. I did about 25,000 mail drops, 25,000 piece mail drop over the course of 4 or 5 months, to really test out at rural markets, suburban, urban, metro, the whole, anywhere where final expense is sold. I tried it, and I realized all the markets work very well, and I performed very well in all the areas I expected to perform well, and better than those that I didn't expect. And so what it came down to is I realized I like this piece a lot. And let me show it to you so you can see why I do. So this here is the same setup, and I'll direct your eyes to the first paragraph there. It says you may qualify for let me see if I can get it closer here. I think that'll work here. Let me see if I can hold it a little more stable. There it is, yeah. You may qualify for a life insurance policy to pay for your final expenses. Skip to the next line. It's important to know how you qualify for this life insurance policy available to you. Skip to the next line. Life insurance benefits may be tax-free. You see where it says free Walmart gift card on the very final sentence of the final paragraph. And then down here, you've got, where's my hand at? Oh, it's on the other side. Uh-oh, there it is, okay. And then down here, you've got a warning that someone is going to come sell something to you. And yeah, so the reason I like these cards is what I pointed out to you, is that this card, first of all, it doesn't have state regulated on it. State regulated is what I would call a greed gland word. What state regulated does is it immediately, and many people think, oh, this is some government program. Now, these are technically state regulated life insurance plans. There's nothing wrong by saying that, but it leads people to think that this is some kind of government handout. With the removal of that language, what happens is you may qualify for a life insurance policy. And it not only says it once, it says it 3 times. Okay? And then, despite the bribe being on there, at the very bottom it says it's an insurance-related solicitation. So the thing is that this piece is probably the most specific lead piece I've ever seen and ever worked with in my career. When I ran it, I didn't have I had virtually 0 freebie seekers. I didn't have anybody trying to look for their free government life insurance benefits that they thought they qualified for, because the language on the card virtually eliminated that concept. What I did have in exchange was people who did want the gift card and nothing else. However, what was surprising is that percentage of responders was very small. It wasn't a huge amount. I never imagined that it would be a tremendous or would be such a minimal volume. And the gift card says no specific amount, so I gave them $5 gift cards for each person who responded. So not a lot of money handed out in order to use these gift card leads, but what you're getting in response is really good response rates. We're seeing response rates on these cards in some markets upwards of 2%, so that means 20 cards back per 1,000. And that's in the Southeast, where response rates are usually close to 1%. And we're seeing them pretty quickly with the vendors that I have set up. And so what this comes down to is that bottom line, I really like these cards. In fact, out of everything I work, they're pretty much equivalent to the fixed price leads that say life insurance, if not slightly better, because of the faster turnaround time and the fact that I just don't have to deal with deadbeats seeking freebies. It's a just totally different experience. And now, okay, you're going to get deadbeats who seek Walmart freebies, but that's a little more manageable. But the thing is, at the end of the day, the leads are high quality, the business is very good quality, and people know what it's about. So you're spending more time with people who generally know it's life insurance, because it says it literally 3 times on there. And it doesn't really give too much away in the sense of, hey, this is free. Big deal with me. It's one of the leads that I really push hard, if I can, if it makes sense for the agent's location, to get them started with, because despite the bribe being there, the benefits of specificity highly outweigh the giveaways that you have to give in order to make it work and effective. So a couple questions here before we move to the next point, which is going to be lead vendor potentials, or what am I looking for? Lead vendor recommendations. There you go. Okay, Joe, how you doing today? To Joe, I tried calling you a little bit later or earlier. Mr. Call was doing a conference call. Hi, Dave. A little off topic. I was angry because I got porched yesterday. That means nobody was there or didn't answer the door. I had an appointment, and there were 2 cars in the yard. The prospect would not answer the door, and she would not answer her cell. Should I try to call her again or just forget about her? So, Joe, if you want to answer this, be good. Did you, when you set the appointment, you set the appointment, correct? I mean, you set it the day before, you said you're going to be there at a certain time, and you showed up and she didn't answer the door. I'm assuming that's correct, unless you want to write something in the comments box to correct me. So, the thing is, you don't really know until somebody tells you no. There's an old saying in the marketing business, you keep soliciting them till they buy or die. Okay, now within reason, right? I mean, I'm not going to knock on this door 40 times. But what I would do is give this a shot. Okay, yes, and she said that day and time were fine. Okay, she said it at that time. So you did talk to her, you expected her to be there, and she wasn't. So, number one, what I would recommend you to do is just next time you're in the area, door knocker, okay? She may have forgotten, something may have happened, okay? She may have been asleep. There's all sorts of things that could have happened. If you can catch them on the spot with the door knock and say, hey, I showed up, you weren't here, you know, I got behind on my schedule, do you have 5 minutes? Let's talk about what you requested. You know, get them on the spot, just show up and door knock them. You may have a good chance of getting in that way. You can definitely try again and say, hey, say the same thing. Hey, I showed up for our time. You weren't there. Just trying to see if I could set an appointment for tomorrow at 10. You know, something like that. You know, just go right back into your script and set it again. I have a 2 strikes and you're out rule. If I set an appointment with a person twice and I don't get a note on the door or somebody calling me back and apologizing, then I'm just not going to waste my time trying to get in front of them. In fact, what's funny, I'll give you 2 stories real quick. I had one woman that I met on Facebook, and she put a post up that she was proud that she had called on a group or a person 20 times. She got no-showed 19 times, and on the 20th time, she finally got sold. She finally sold the person and then sold the whole family. And my response was, you could have been on 20 different sales calls, and if you're closing half of your sales calls, you could have made 10 sales in the time it took to make that one sale. It was highly inefficient use of time, because the likelihood of somebody who no-shows that often is probably that they're a poor prospect, and you're chasing a dream that they're something that they're not, which is, you know, a decent human being. So at that point, 19 times, one time, give them another shot. in 2 or 3 or 4, you're probably dealing with somebody who is just jerking you around. Okay. So yeah, I would try to drive by, put them on the spot. You can call them. Just don't take them off the list yet until they tell you no, or 2 or 3 times no show you. Jerry, how you doing today, Jerry? Hope you're doing fine. Do you still have some of those aged leads for sale? I do. We have got a ton all around where you live, and we got a ton in all of the counties around you. There's some in Smith County. There's some in Humphreys County, of all counties. There's a lot in Lawrence. I mean, really, everywhere in Middle Tennessee, we've got a ton of them. I can send you the updated list so you can see. I prefer you to get the newer ones. But yeah, I mean, you tell me how many you want, we can get them for you. And that goes for anybody. We basically got an age lead list that lists a bunch of leads that have never been purchased. They've never been worked. They do have age on them. And they're all over the country. Probably have about 7,000 to 8,000 leads, no kidding, in various states across the nation. If you're interested in seeing that, what I would recommend you do is go to my website, go to the contact button, and put in your email and name and say, Dave, send me the link to the age leads list, and I'll send it to you. If you find something you like, great. If you don't, no problem. The minimum is 5 leads. So, just take a look at it and see what you like. And then, hey, if you want to buy some, let me know. Okay, how much age can a lead have and still be effective? This is from Jerry again. So, good question. I'm of the persuasion that somewhere between 3 to 6 months is really my maximal comfort level with full price leads. So here's the thing. How an aged lead works is that the underlying assumption that I have is that an aged lead should be unworked. I don't want to work an aged lead that's been worked by 5 other dudes. All right, even if it's a month old, it's been worked to death. At that point, I want an unworked aged lead. So that goes without saying. Let's just assume that going forward. So if I've got an unworked aged lead, I'm willing to pay full price for that. Generally speaking, around 3 months or so. Okay, so if it's January the 2nd. If I see age leads from October, November, December, I'll pay full price for those. I'll pay $30 a lead. That's fine. Especially with the holidays, people tend to not work as hard. And so, you probably have a higher chance of working somebody who hasn't sent off another lead card. Hey, Nathan, I'll answer your question in a second. However, and just for full disclosure for you guys, the leads that I offer, they're all $30, give or take, even the ones that are a year old. Now, sometimes we can get the price much lower if it's over a year. But the problem with the ones that are around a year old is that I don't actually sell them. The person I work with, it's his leads, and he doesn't want to negotiate on price. So I'm just doing him a favor by trying to help him offload them. So everything he sees, even if it's 9 months old, is $30 a lead. I personally wouldn't sell them or wouldn't buy them for that much. I'd want a discount, which leads me to my next point, Jerry, is that yeah, I mean, I'll buy an unworked age lead that's 9 months old, but personally, I wouldn't pay $30 for it. I'd pay $10 for it, or $5, something in that range. Because, hey, these people send off other lead cards. If they're interested, they probably bought. They sent another lead card off. I mean, I'm telling you, these people get cards once or twice a week, and they'll wait for a while because they think you're going to respond back. But if you never do, well, they're just going to send another card in, and they'll buy from somebody else. Now, you could set up some replacements. However, with some of the older ones, which is nice, that had bought because you didn't show up. But still, I prefer to, pay 15 or less at most for anything that's over 3-6 months old. It's kind of my general recommendation. All right, Nathan, I see you got a question here on direct mail leads. What should your target closing ratio be? So, good question. Here is the litmus test that I would use. So, I want to see, and this is a good agent, but not a great agent, but not a bad agent. A good agent should be closing about 1 out of 4 of his leads. So if you buy 30 leads a week, 25% of 30 is 8 1/4 or something. It's about, something to say 8, okay? So you should be writing 8 deals off of 30 direct mail pieces consistently. Now, the reality is 1 week you may write 12, the next week you may write 6, but it works out to be pretty much in line where you need it to be. 1 week you might write $4,000 in premium off of 12 apps. The next week we may write $5,000 premium off of 4 apps. So premium wise, it kind of all evens out over the scope of many months. It's not a day-to-day thing. It's those averages are attained over a month-to-month time at minimum. So with that said, if you manage your numbers and look at your production, it should arrive at that average over the course of a month-to-month type of scenario. So bottom line, 25% is a challenging but achievable goal. That's what you should be setting yourself up to hit when you do direct mail. If it's less than that, if you're writing 20%, you're probably not working hard enough door knocking. That's usually the number one reason people aren't converting at 25% is because they're not door knocking their leads. They're just running appointments and they're only seeing 40% of them, whereas the other 60%, they're not trying to hit them. So lower closing ratios tends to be that way. If it's below 20%, usually there's a structural problem when it comes to presentation, or pre-qualification is a big deal, or they don't have the right products to sell. They're not taking advantage of replacements or handling objections correctly. That's where you want to be more concerned if it's less than 20%. Again, will you hit 20% some weeks? Sure. But again, if we look at a month-to-month basis, if you're not writing more than 20% of your business, it's probably a structural presentation problem that you need to improve upon. So hopefully that answers your question. The other thing you want to take consideration as well is some other statistics. Let's say you buy 30 leads a week. I would want you at a minimum to get into 50% of those doors. So that means I want you to have 15 booked presentations, whether by door knocking or by setting an appointment prior to it. Okay. If you're getting 40% or 30%, again, you're probably not working hard enough. Okay. You're not calling enough. You're not doing enough activity to get that. Not enough door knocking. So, and you should be able to get more than that, especially if you door knock. You should be getting 50 to 60%. And then out of those percentage, you should be able to close half of those. It's kind of roughly about what you want to hit. Okay. Now back to what Joe was saying. Another thing, and this is a good recommendation for you too as well, Joe, is that you're going to have no-shows. And you're going to have jerks who no-show you that told you that they're going to be there, kind of like the one you saw. The thing is you have to anticipate that happening as being normal. In this business, it's very normal when you set a blind appointment, because remember, we're setting an appointment where they don't know who we are. They send a card back. They're not quite sure what it's about, what it's going to entail, if they're going to sell you or not. There's not a lot of pre-qualification, and the less pre-qualification, the more no-shows. We're getting on average, about 7 to 8 out of 10 to actually show up. Okay, so you're going to have 20 to 30% of your prospects that are booked in appointments not be there for whatever reason. They changed their mind, they ran away, they're cowards, they had a doctor's appointment, they're dead, who knows. So there's always some reason, it doesn't matter. It's just you always have to anticipate some of that. And it will fluctuate. I've had weeks where I've had 50% no-show rates. I've had weeks where I ran 25 appointments and all 25 showed up. It's crazy. So it'll kind of average out again, just like closing ratios, over a longer period of time. So Joe said, if someone hangs up on you immediately before you have a chance to explain, oh, yes. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned this. Is excellent, excellent point. They hung up on you. Did they hang up on you? And Joe, you can answer this if you want to. Did they hang up on you because they didn't want what you were buying, or because they sensed that you were a telemarketer? So I'm going to assume that you're going to say because they hung up on you because they sense you're a telemarketer. But did they know that they actually sent the card back? Did they actually realize that they were the ones soliciting you, right? So the way I look at it is, if they hang up on you and you don't even have a chance to explain why you're calling, that's not a lead I'm going to kill. That's a lead that you need to door knock, okay? And here's the thing. The reality is, somebody that's going to hang up on you like that, I promise you, does that to every other telemarketer that calls on a daily basis, all right? So when you show up the next day or even the next week, they won't remember you, okay? You don't even have to reference that circumstance of what happened. In your mind, you're thinking, oh, what a rude ass. They hung up on me. Oh, he's going to be an ass when I get there. Don't think like that, because that's how they treat everybody. That's like their defense mechanism. And when you show up and you just go into a pitch, or you go up into your door knocking presentation with nothing actually changed or different, the bottom line is that they're not going to say, you jerk, I hung up on you yesterday. They're not going to recognize that because they've done it 5 other times before you actually door knocked them. And the ones that are good that will buy from you, they're going to actually respect you because you're showing up is an act of being concerned about getting them quality coverage and helping them out. And people do respond to people who have the courage to show up and do things like that. So that's what I would do, is absolutely go door knock them. Do not be deterred because I hung up on you. It's definitely not a good reason to not show up and continue with the prospecting process. So guys, if you got questions still, please continue to ask them to continue on here with my favorite vendor. So there's primarily 3 vendors that I'm recommend. The first one is called Lead Concepts. I like Lead Concepts a lot. You're welcome, Joe. They're a very good company and very well servicing. Prices tend to be a little bit higher, but I like working with them tremendously. They don't have a fixed price lead program, but they're easy to work with, very responsive, and they've been very good for my agents. So I like Lead Concepts. Their website's leadconcepts.com. Second of all, you've got Need a Lead. Need a Lead is out of Idaho, and the guy who runs the shop there is Brady Evans, I think. And he offers a fixed price lead that says life insurance on it. And it's $29 to $31 a lead, somewhere in there. Very good deal. However, if you get the fixed price lead, you have to sign off saying you'll buy anything additional above and beyond what you paid for. So if you end up in a situation where he's got 50 extra leads after you've satisfied your portion that you've put your money into, you got to buy those 50. And he'll allow you to, he'll work with you on pricing or on payments, but you got to pay for that. So, you are stuck with more leads potentially than you know what to do with. The third vendor I work with is an internal vendor with my upline. They don't work directly to the agent. They work with marketing organizations like mine, and they offer fixed price leads. I do them to some extent in certain markets, but most of what I've been doing is through Lead Concepts, Need a Lead, and in some cases, another one called Lead Connections. Another Chris runs Lead Connections out of Dallas. Very good guy, or maybe it's Oklahoma. Anyways, very good as well. So if you'd like links or any suggestions of those vendors, let me know. I can definitely help you out with that. So last thing here is to answer this question from the last video that someone posted, which is, what happens when somebody you're calling on says, I've got insurance already? So last week I did a video on objection handling. When somebody says, I've got insurance already, what more than likely than not happens is that is a phone objection. It's not so much of a objection it is an objection to buying to some extent. But what you'll find is once you probe that objection more, you'll find people will tell you, I got insurance, but I don't think it's enough. Or I got insurance, but it's too expensive. And so those objections also are good concept to keep in mind when you're making the phone call or when you show up in person to see these people face to face. So what do you say? We call them on the phone and they say, hey, this is Dave Duford. I'm responding to that postcard you sent back requesting information on final expense coverage. I'm the agent in your area. I'll be in tomorrow at 10 o'clock to deliver the information to you. And then they say, hey, this is about life insurance. I've got life insurance already. Well, so what you say is you say, great, totally fine. In fact, everybody I see already has insurance. The reason they meet with me anyway is because they're surprised at really how much money they can save and really the difference in the kind of quality coverage we can get. All I need is 5 minutes. Look, what you do, Mrs. Jones, with the coverage is totally up to you. If you like it, great. If not, throw me out. We'll still be friends. So how's Tuesday at 2 sound? So what I did there, let me break down that script again. So what I did there is I congratulated her. I said, great. That's perfect. Then I told her everybody has it. Most everybody I see has insurance. And then I say, well, the reason they meet with me anyway. So I'm getting on her level. I'm telling her that so does everybody. Everybody else says that too. And then I'm saying, hey, well, you may find this interesting in so many words. People still meet with me anyway because they're shocked or they're surprised at how much money they can save because of what I can do for them, or they're surprised at really how different our coverage is compared to what they have. And so I give them a reason. I lower their defenses by congratulating them and saying everybody's got it. I give them a good reason to meet, and then I sell the appointment. That's the crucial part of this is selling the appointment. You can't miss a beat between this. So when you say that, you say, look, all I need is 5 minutes to show you what it is that I do. And then you sell. The way I like to sell is this. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's fine too. I promise I won't give you a hard time. Sometimes I say, you can throw me out of the house and we'll still be friends, because I'm trying to get them to laugh a little bit at how that sounds. So, but even if you don't want to say that, you'll say, hey, great, give me 5 minutes. I'll show you how this works. If you like it, great. If not, that's totally fine. There's no obligation whatsoever. And then you close for the appointment. How's Tuesday at 2 work? So you always want to close it. Again, you're leading them down this path to where you close them on a time. Okay? You're not waiting for them to respond to, hey, that's fine too. And then they're like, yeah, well, I don't think so. So you want to be able to say, that's fine too if you don't like it. How's Tuesday at 2 work? So you're giving them something to answer to that is a yes or no question, or an assumptive. How's Tuesday at 2, or would 4 be better if you want to go for a more assumptive close? But that way you're relating them to an easy question to answer. Hopefully that makes sense to that particular objection. Now, if you're in the sales call and somebody says, I don't know why I sent this in, I've got life insurance already. Usually that's in the beginning of the sales call. You should find this stuff out pretty quickly. Once you do, that's fine. And you can usually kind of use the same verbiage. Hey, that's fine. Most people I deal with have life insurance. Mind if I ask you, who's your life insurance with? So you write down the name, how much you're paying for it, when did you get it, what's it supposed to do? Could you go grab your policy for me? So again, when you hear that somebody has life insurance, especially if you're a broker, you should be happy, because this is an opportunity to potentially replace or at least sell more insurance to this person, which is great because they're already paying for insurance. That means they already get how insurance works and likes it, which means there's going to be a higher chance of actually staying on the books. So just go with it. Don't be disturbed by that question. Congratulate them. Get some information, collect some information. It might be a mail order company that's total garbage. Now you can replace it. Show them something better. And you can excite them. Say, oh man, this is great. I'm so happy I met you, because man, wait till I show you what's in this particular policy. You're not going to believe what you're going to see. And then you can show them the 2-year wait, or the term that cancels at 80, or whatever. So don't let somebody who has life insurance throw you off. Just keep going with it. Gather the facts. Continue the presentation. Once you know where their health fits and you've helped inform them of what they have, you can make a business proposition that may end up getting you a sale. And in my opinion, a lot better quality sale. So be excited when someone has insurance. It's usually dollar signs that we're looking for. And many of the top agents love having people who have insurance, because the quality is a lot better as far as persistency goes. And you just need to sell them on why doing business with you is a superior choice. So, with all that said, let me make sure I got everything else covered here. That's right. The last thing I'll cover here is the concerns that I would have with a fixed price lead vendor. I'm of the persuasion that the one way that fixed pricing works as well as it does is because, with response rates being poor as they are, a lot of vendors can manipulate whom they mail to in that 50 to 85-year-old range. Whereas the 50 to 60-year-olds generally the highest responders, and the 80 to 85-year-olds are the highest responders as well. And so what happens is you tend to get more leads in those age ranges with a fixed price lead program if you're not allowed to shorten that range to maybe a mid-50s to late 70s range, which is optimal if you go that route. So if you do, the biggest problem is you tend to deal with a lot more younger people and a lot more older people, whereas that middle group doesn't respond as much. And so what happens is that that's the one you want, in my opinion. Those are the best leads, the ones that are retiring or hitting disability or in that age range to buy insurance, kind of front and center of mind. That's who I want to target more, and less of the 50 to 60 and the 80 to 85. So you got to be concerned about that. Some vendors are better than others about that. That's why I like the bribe cards over the fixed price leads in many markets, because you can hone in on your age range and not sacrifice response rates as well, or as much, I should say. So, so if you have any questions about direct mail, if you're an agent of mine that's thinking about starting a direct mail campaign with me, and you want to talk to me one-on-one, set up a campaign, something I can definitely help you with. If you're not an agent of mine and you're potentially interested in looking at joining my mentorship program, I invite you to check out my website. Go to the contact button at the top and reach out to me that way. I'm more than happy to set a one-on-one consultation with you to tell you more about how the program works and give you information. And we are at the end here. It's 45 minutes in. I think I've covered everything. And I want to thank you so much for listening, again, to the No BS Final Expense training about final expense leads. Next week, we're going to do another training. I'm not sure what it is. I was going to actually pull it up here and tell you. If you give me a second, I will grab it real quick. It is going to be... I got to pull it up here. Something fun and amazing, I'm sure. Next week is going to be the basics of telemarketing leads. So we're going to talk about final expense telemarketing leads. We're going to talk about avatar leads and some other subject matter related to telemarketing leads. What you should be concerned about finding, what you should stay away from, and more or less help you with your lead questions that you have. So once again, thank you so much for joining. My name is Dave Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor at FEAgentmentor.com. See you next week, Monday at 12 Eastern. Take care.